I was in my office when my sister-in-law Donna visited, having returned from Des Moines where she often works. She sat down and revealed her concerns about something troubling her. "Wade," she said quietly, "an unusual incident occurred today in Des Moines. I ran into an old colleague of ours who works at a restaurant on Grand Avenue now. This colleague told me they'd seen your wife there twice over the past 2 weeks, not alone, but with some men." Donna paused before adding, "Wade, your wife wasn't alone." In response to this revelation that I already knew about, I briefly replied to my wife's text saying, "Tell Lyle his wife is waiting for him." This situation began a couple of weeks prior to that text. My coworker claimed they were very intimate, and it appeared to be more than just a business meeting. "Given your infrequent city visits, I recall you trusting your wife implicitly after years of marriage. Cheryl manages our extensive farming operations finances and frequently travels to the city for business matters. She always returned on schedule, never showed any signs of distress, and had never given me a reason to suspect her." However, Donna's words lingered in my mind. I began scrutinizing Cheryl's recent city trips. Lately, she had been citing numerous urgent reasons for these visits. Once the bank required original documents immediately. On another occasion, the tax office requested an audit. Occasionally, she returned late without ever mentioning dining at a restaurant with any man during lunch. The idea of her being unfaithful had first crossed my mind, and now I needed proof to validate it. I was unwilling to accuse Cheryl without concrete evidence. In our compact county, word travels swiftly. To avoid causing a family rift over an insignificant matter and tarnishing our enterprise's standing, I required tangible evidence instead of gossip from an old colleague. Remaining as composed and casual as possible, I addressed Donna and posited the possibility that the person in question could be a supplier, a new client, or someone Cheryl had failed to disclose amidst the chaos. I requested a minor favor from Donna, advising her to contact our shared former colleague at the restaurant during her upcoming trip to Des Moines. My intention was straightforward. If Cheryl was seen with the same man again, Donna was to discreetly capture a photograph for verification. I simply wanted to identify this individual, resolve any doubts, and move forward without reservation. At first, Donna seemed reluctant, but eventually agreed. It felt morally questionable for her to spy on her sister, but she pondered and rationalized that one innocuous photograph wouldn't harm anyone if Cheryl had nothing to hide. A couple of days later, Donna visited my office again. Upon entering, she closed the door and briefly shared that she had spoken with her old work colleague, who agreed to help. If Cheryl reappeared there with her companion, Donna would attempt to covertly take a picture. All we could do now was wait. The ensuing days moved at a snail's pace. Every evening I had to endure dinner with Cheryl, discuss farm business, and maintain the facade of normalcy while my internal tension escalated. A week later, Donna silently entered my office. Without uttering a word, she locked the door, approached my desk, and placed her phone on it. On the screen was a photograph taken by her former colleague at the restaurant. Upon closer inspection, the image caused an upsurge of emotion within me. Cheryl, my wife, was seated at a table towards the back of the restaurant, but the unexpected sight was Lyle, Donna's husband and my brother-in-law, positioned beside her. He served as the manager of our farming operation. In the image, his arm was around Cheryl's shoulders, and he had planted a kiss on her cheek. For several moments, Donna and I merely stared at each other in shocked silence. The surprise soon dissipated into strategic contemplation, and we swiftly began scrutinizing circumstances that initially appeared as mere coincidence. We retraced their visits to Des Moines, discovering that the timing of their city excursions was often synchronous. On occasions when Cheryl visited the bank or the tax office, Lyle would depart for parts purchases on the same day. However, they always returned home separately, and not once did either discuss meeting in the city or sharing a meal together. Hence, they were concealing something. Donna and I opted to keep quiet about the situation for now. Perhaps we were overreacting. Maybe those lunch outings at restaurants weren't significant, despite the picture seeming suspiciously familiar. Neither of us wanted to entertain negative thoughts, so we needed solid proof. We required evidence that couldn't be dismissed as a coincidence or friendly gesture. We decided to stay patient and continue observing them closely. On Friday evening, Cheryl and I were at home. She placed her phone on the kitchen counter to charge and stepped outside for a brief moment to check on the porch flowers. Within a minute, her phone screen lit up. I glanced at it reflexively and stopped dead. A fresh message from Lyle had appeared on her screen. The text was concise and left no room for misinterpretation. Going to the city tomorrow, missing you. At that moment, any lingering doubt I harbored about those supposedly innocent lunches vanished completely. Now I was sure that their Des Moines meetings weren't accidental. Swiftly, I snapped a picture of her screen with the incriminating message displayed. It required all my strength to return her phone to its place and compose myself before she returned indoors. That night, not a wink of sleep graced me as I pondered that message, knowing my previous life was now over. However, revealing my emotions prematurely wasn't an option. The next morning, Cheryl acted as if nothing had changed. After breakfast, she casually informed me she needed to attend another city trip for work. I pretended to comprehend. As soon as her car exited the gate, I dialed Donna and asked her to arrive immediately. Upon her arrival, I handed her my phone without a word, the message clearly visible on its screen. Donna slumped into a chair and scrutinized that brief evening text from her husband for quite some time. Realization dawned in her eyes that her spouse was unfaithful with her sister. There was no room for ambiguity. I slipped the phone into my pocket and informed her we couldn't lose our cool and instigate a family commotion at this moment. We needed to approach this situation tactfully. Donna let out a deep sigh and nodded slowly in understanding. We settled down at my desk to think through our options logically. Emotions had to be suppressed. It was time for calculated moves. The circumstances were precarious. Cheryl and Lyle held crucial roles in our farming operation. My wife managed the finances, handled the accounts, had access to payments, and controlled the financial records. Lyle, as manager, supervised daily operations, looked after the workers, equipment, grain deliveries, and procurement. They were like vital cogs in a large machine. That was precisely why I couldn't act hastily and create a public stir at the present moment. We required discretion and caution to replace both of them simultaneously, severing their ties from the operation on the same day, thereby stripping them of any influence. A solution emerged swiftly. Donna held an accounting degree, possessing profound knowledge in her field, enabling her to navigate through her sister's records effortlessly. We opted for Donna to assume full control over the farm's accounting. In the interim, I assumed the managerial duties, having extensive familiarity with the farm, thus managing Lyle's role temporarily while we secretly sought a trustworthy individual for the position. Over the ensuing days, we proceeded with meticulous care. I discussed the upcoming week's plans with Lyle as if nothing had altered, and Donna remained tight-lipped during her encounters with her sister. We were steadily preparing for the impending moment. That day, Cheryl departed for Des Moines in the morning, a document review with a significant fertilizer manufacturer awaiting her. Meanwhile, Lyle was absent from the farm, heading to the city under the guise of an emergency bank visit. By noon, my phone buzzed momentarily on the desk. It was a message from Cheryl stating she was still working in the city. This time, I decided not to feign understanding. Donna and I were already prepared. Each day of this charade had grown increasingly difficult, and it was high time to bring an end to it all. I took a deep breath before replying. "All right, dear, inform Lyle that his wife is awaiting him at home." I sent the message and waited, every second feeling interminable. It wasn't hard to visualize them sitting in that restaurant then, glancing down at their phones, suddenly aware that their flawless plan had unraveled. A minute later, Cheryl called me back. Her tone was strained, yet attempting to feign surprise. "Wade, I didn't fully grasp your message," she responded with a forced chuckle. "Explain, what is Lyle's relevance?" This seemed odd. She appeared to be groping for ignorance, improvising in the moment, but I had no plans of arguing with her over the phone. My voice was steady and firm. I informed Cheryl directly that she and Lyle were expected at the farming operations office that night. There were matters to address, and this would serve as our final family discussion. After that, I switched off my phone and exhaled deeply. The past was now irreversible. Then, I contacted Donna and instructed her to report to my office immediately. While Cheryl and Lyle traveled back from Des Moines, Donna and I remained in the office. Time was of the essence. Once they understood they had been discovered, they would respond defensively. In a family business prone to asset division disputes, Cheryl, having access to the financial records, could transfer the operational funds into her personal accounts with a swift action. Lyle might manipulate the foreman against me, disrupting the harvest. Allowing them such leeway was too risky. I sat at the work computer, entered my owner credentials, and Donna assisted me in promptly changing the passwords and barring Cheryl from all banking portals of the farm. In that instant, my wife was disallowed access to the funds. Immediately after, I contacted the senior foreman on each crew. My voice was stern and resolute, informing them that all current matters should now be directed to me exclusively, and any instructions from Lyle were nullified immediately. This action brought the first genuine sense of ease and fulfillment I'd felt throughout those weeks filled with tension. In that very moment, Donna and I exchanged a glance, and it was then we both realized the devastating impact of the events unfolding. The family we'd nurtured for 20 years crumbled before us. Holidays shared, Sunday dinners, familial bonds all vanished in a blink, reduced to embers by their clandestine relationship. We felt wretched beyond measure. An hour elapsed before Cheryl and Lyle finally entered our office, their anxious expressions evident. Attempting to feign outrage, Lyle scoffed at any notion of jest on my part concerning his wife. Cheryl echoed his indignation, calling for an immediate halt to this ordeal. I remained silent, presenting the photograph from Grand Avenue's restaurant and the screenshot of Cheryl's late-night messages to them both. The room grew quiet as a tomb. I revealed that Donna and I were aware of their secret affair, causing dead silence to settle upon us all. There was no need for dishonesty or concealment any longer. They were free to depart from their families, but employment elsewhere would be necessary due to this situation. Deceit was not tolerated in this project. In quick succession, the news of Cheryl and Lyle spread throughout our county, rapidly becoming the focus of all conversations among neighbors and farmers in the region. It was impossible to keep a secret like that in such a close-knit community, and now their actions were under public scrutiny. One day, I dropped by the repair shop to assess the progress on the combine maintenance before the new season. A mechanic approached me promptly. He seemed uneasy, looked around furtively, and whispered that he had observed Cheryl and Lyle leaving together in Lyle's truck twice towards the end of the workday. Initially, I hadn't given it much thought, but later, after all that had been revealed, it appeared significantly different. I listened, patted him on the shoulder, and walked away, yet inside I was simmering. The realization that they had been secretly meeting on our farm, right under my very eyes, wouldn't leave me in peace. I felt the need to confront Lyle directly. A solitary work light flickered in the distant bay. I stepped inside. Lyle was standing with his back to me, packing his tools into a sturdy toolbox. "Are you aware that you've shattered 2 families?" I asked, my bitterness evident. Lyle startled. He turned around gradually, wiping his grimy hands on an old cloth. From his expression, I could tell he had been expecting this talk. He exhaled heavily and looked me squarely in the eye. "Wade," he said gruffly, "I acknowledge what I've done to you and Donna." The encounter wasn't anticipated, it merely transpired, leaving no chance for prevention. He departed silently, grabbing his toolbox and ambled towards the exit. That was our final interaction. 2 months later, both families went through divorce proceedings. Post-divorce, Cheryl and Lyle resided together in a deserted house on the remote outskirts of the county. However, their stay was brief. Our rural community swiftly communicated their disapproval to them, making it evident that they no longer belonged here. Our family enjoyed a high standing within this community, with our extensive farming operation being the primary employer and income source for locals. The entire county had some degree of attachment to the land, so Cheryl and Lyle's actions were met with great distress. News persistently trickled in that they faced mounting financial difficulties. Over the past 20 years, they had depended on their key roles and consistent income, but after losing those positions, they struggled to find work locally. The farmers in the area showed no interest in employing people who had caused divisions within families. Lyle's efforts to secure a managerial position at nearby businesses were unsuccessful. Eventually, they left our county, never returning again. Donna and I experienced relief as our lives slowly returned to normalcy. The burden of deceit and secrecy that we had endured for months was finally lifted. Our home and workplace became free from tension once more. As a family, we grew stronger, with the betrayers taking their tensions with them. Our loved ones rallied around us, and our traditional Sunday dinners resumed, filling our hearts with joy again, devoid of any hint of deception or forced smiles. At the farm, there was an abundance of tasks during the bustling season's start, yet our focus was completely captivated by what truly mattered. All our efforts were channeled into construction. Donna adapted swiftly to her new role. Given her background as an accountant, understanding the specifics was relatively quick. Within days, she managed all the accounts, invoices, and payments autonomously. The replacement for Lyle, carefully selected after a thorough search, also proved to be commendable. He emerged as a seasoned professional who promptly garnered the esteem of the foreman and mechanics. The entire crew functioned seamlessly. Donna and I propelled our combined family business forward with assurance, increasing the cultivated acreage and enhancing the equipment. As usual, the land required diligence, but it was labor we cherished, offering tangible fulfillment and tranquility. Did you find the conclusion of this tale satisfactory? It might have unfolded otherwise. Had Cheryl and Lyle intervened promptly, had they given thought, however fleeting, to others instead of their own interests, the marriages could have survived, the family preserved, or perhaps they were deserving of a chance at redemption. What's your perspective? Share in the comments below. Stay tuned for more unspoken narratives ahead.